by Time magazine as among the world's 100 most influential people. The description went like this. Fethullah Gulen is among the world's most intriguing religious leaders. From a secluded retreat in Pennsylvania, he preaches a message of tolerance that has won him admirers around the world. Schools founded by Mr. Gulen's followers thrive in an estimated 140 countries. Doctors who respond to his wishes work without pay in disaster-afflicted countries. Gulen, however, is also a man of mystery. His influence in his native Turkey is immense, exercised by graduates of his schools who have reached key posts in the government, judiciary, and police. This makes him seem like a shadowy puppeteer, and he is scorned by almost as many Turks as love him. But as the most potent advocate of moderation in the Muslim world, Gulen is waging an urgently important campaign. In this description from Time magazine, we hear hints of the two prevalent narratives about Mr. Gulen. One narrative views him through a civil society lens as a revered religious and civil society leader who has inspired a movement dedicated to service, for which there's a paper trail for Mr. Gulen extending for decades, with over 60 books, countless interviews and statements, and weekly sermons online, all promoting a peaceful and altruistic way of life informed by the values of Islam. The other view of Mr. Gulen portrays him as a cultish figure with a level of influence that made those in power in Turkey nervous. Regardless of his rhetoric or the character and service of the people inspired by him, when his influence was measured by a political calculus, he was considered a threat, and Hizmet was labeled as a terrorist movement. The tension between these two views came to a head as a result of an attempted coup in Turkey on July 15, 2016. In the aftermath, hundreds of thousands of persons associated with the movement have been ostracized from the mainstream of Turkish society, losing their jobs, their rights, and their freedom. Tens of thousands have been imprisoned and in many cases tortured, raped, and even killed. Here are the most recent numbers. 133,000 public sector workers dismissed. We're talking teachers, police, military, healthcare professionals, academics. 60,000 students released from school. 23,427 academics fired from their jobs. 15 universities closed. Most devastating, 163,000 persons detained in jails and prisons, 8,000 human rights violations, reported cases of torture, 2,300, and 48 deaths. Of those detained, 10,000 are women, with 668 children imprisoned with them. Today, we're going to take a closer look at this ongoing saga of persecution, at the lives that have been broken in its wake, and at the narratives that continue to perpetuate this tragedy. And over the course of this program, if you are moved today about what you learn, please join the growing chorus of those calling for an end to this grave injustice. I encourage you to visit change.org to the project You Are My Hope and add your name to the signature campaign established by the NBA basketball star Enes Kanter. Here are a few people who have signed on to that campaign.
Hey, Terry Crews, and I am in support of Enes Kanter and the You Are My Hope initiative Please be the voice of the voiceless, and please support and sign the petition right now.
I'm sending my very best to Ennis to give him more power, to give him strength, and to give him resiliency, and to give him patience as he continues to fight for the human rights of millions of people around the world. God bless you, Ennis, and God bless those that are significantly impacted by tyranny.
I'm here to tell you that I support my good friend Enes Kanter and his tireless work for victims of human rights violations around the world. Please go and sign his petition to the You Are My Hope campaign.
Hi, I'm Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, and I support Enes Kanter's You're My Hope initiative. Enes's effort here in the United States seeks to bring human rights and justice for those who are imprisoned and being oppressed in Turkey.
So on behalf of democracy, on behalf of hope, on behalf of humanity in Turkey, here in the United States and everywhere, we have to continue to fight together. So Enes, thank you so much for your leadership. And I'm so happy to lend my voice in support of your efforts. We have to win this fight. We have to win it for all of us.
I support Enes Kanter and his efforts in advocacy for human rights violations around the world. And I invite everyone to sign his campaign, You Are My Hope.
We must all unite against the thugs and dictators who profit from misery, who refuse to respect the basic values of human life, of freedom, and the rule of law. Please sign the petition and join the fight in making a better future for all of us.
I support the You Are My Hope initiative. Just one click can help thousands of people who have been stripped of their human rights.
It's our pleasure to hear from a historian and a scholar who has recently written quite a definitive biography of Fethullah Gulen, and through that lens has given us a picture of the Hizmet movement, particularly in terms of the challenges they now face. It's my pleasure to welcome John Paul. And John, I want to ask you first of all to share it with us. What's the title of your book? What's your understanding of what you've written, and why did you choose to write this book?
Yeah, thank you, Dirk. It's great to be with you, and welcome to everyone who is participating in this event in solidarity with Silence Turkey. So here's a picture of the book. I'll do the silly, commercial thing, but there it is. It's Fethullah Gulen, A Life of Hizmet, Why a Muslim Scholar in Pennsylvania Matters to the World. The content of the book is very straightforward, actually. It is an objective history of his life, the first critical biography in English of Mr. Fethullah Gulen and the movement he has inspired, the global movement he has inspired. Like any good historian, my work seeks to unearth the evidence and work with the details of the evidence of his life and narrate it accurately, fairly, and critically. And so the book tries to undertake that task for English-speaking readers for the first time. The content of the book is organized both chronologically and topically. That is, chronologically from his birth in 1938 in a tiny little village of Korajuk, and then down to his self-imposed exile in the United States. He's been in the US since 1999. And his life followed a trajectory with some really dramatic stories in it. He's been imprisoned at least 4 times, had to go on the run for 6 years in Turkey, and yet throughout it continued to teach this positive action, mushbat harakat, consistent positive action on behalf of practicing Islam. And so the topics, the 5 topics that are at the heart of the book, highlight 5 aspects, 5 what I call seeds of peace that Mr. Gulen has inspired other individuals to put into practice. The first one is learning. And in that chapter, chapter 1, I trace his life of learning and then his contribution, his philosophy and theology of learning that he has communicated to people inspired by him. Second chapter focuses on the nonviolent practices at the heart of Islam, such as prayer. Prayer does extraordinary things. Neuroscientists are even finding to bring inner peace and then also to contribute to social peace, as do the other 5 pillars of Islam that Mr. Gulen has been teaching about throughout his life and that are practiced by people inspired by him. Third chapter focuses on what I call engaged empathy as a seed of peace. That is, deep feeling for the suffering of the world, the unnecessary suffering, and then a commitment to engage to do something positive about it as well, especially through constructive social action. Fourth chapter, principled pluralism, focuses on the Turkish conception of hoşgörü, which literally gets translated as tolerance, but it's a terrible translation because hoşgörü literally means to see nicely. It's a compound word in Turkish. As Mr. Gulen has inspired people to put it into practice, this dialogue, it means to see others as God sees them. And that means essentially to see others with eyes of mercy and compassion. And the final chapter covers the years from 1999 to the present and focuses on the work of people of his bent in social enterprises, that is, in developing businesses that generate wealth to help alleviate the central problems facing the modern world, of which there are 3. Those 3 central problems are ignorance, poverty, and disunity or violence. And those 3 problems are solved through generating businesses that create wealth, but that wealth that then gets used to address these 3 problems of ignorance, poverty, and disunity or violence through the platforms of the Hizmet movement around the globe. So in brief, that's the outline of the book and its contents, why I wrote it. My entire career since my doctorate at the University of Chicago has been spent studying the intersection between religions and violence and religions and peace building. The book I completed prior to this one is called Empire of Sacrifice, The Religious Origins of American Violence, and it looks at the role that religions have played in legitimizing and producing violence in American history, especially along the lines of age, race, and gender. And so I was looking for a happier topic, honestly. And I began doing research on peace builders, religious peace builders in history, and discovered they're an extraordinary thing. I believe the most significant story in the history of religions in the 20th century and early 21st century is the emergence of religious peace building as an effective catalyst for constructive social change in societies, basically from Gandhi to Gulen. And as I became familiar with people of Hizmet by attending dialogue events, by speaking at conferences, and so forth, I began to see how Mr. Gulen's place in history was very much in continuity with these religious peace builders, such as Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Liberian Nobel laureate Lima Bowie, and as I studied more and more Mr. Gulen's life, the importance of that story of Mr. Gulen as a peace builder in that model became increasingly urgent as things went south in Turkey, as Erdogan consolidated his grip and clearly utilized a democratic facade to reinforce dictatorial actions that have had a profound and tragic consequence both for Turkey and for the globe. So that's why I wrote the book. I had to get it out. I wish it would have been out a couple of years earlier to help perhaps forestall some of the lies and propaganda that have circulated about Mr. Gulen and people of Hizmet and the damage that has been done to them as a result of Erdogan's power grab.
Those are very powerful themes, I know, from his life. I wonder if you could share briefly at the height of the movement's impact in the world. What were people in the Gulen movement doing in Turkey and around the world?
Yeah, it's an extraordinary story in the history of religions, actually, how this movement, this community, Jemaat, how this community became missionary, not in a bad sense, not in a colonializing sense, but in the sense of commitment to carrying the positive action, the Muspet Harakat, all around the globe. So when I started doing the research for this book in 2008 and 2010, those were the first two big trips I took. The movement had established far and away the best schools in Turkey, from kindergarten, preschool, all the way up through colleges. And this was part of Mr. Gulen's emphasis on education as the path to solving ignorance. This social enterprise or social entrepreneurial focus on education as the crucial element, beginning with the school in Izmir, Yamanlar, and then schools all over Turkey. And in the early 1980s, as the Soviet Empire was falling apart, crumbling, people inspired by Mr. Gulen began to go to those former Soviet republics and establishing schools, especially in the Turkic-speaking communities there, but eventually all over in the former Soviet republics. And then in the 1990s, expanding globally. So to especially South Africa and Southern African nations, but eventually West Africa and East Africa as well. Similarly in Europe and in the United States, Australia, truly an extraordinary movement focused on education. That is, building schools, especially math and science academies, because one of Mr. Gulen's central premises is that we have to fly with two wings. And what he means by that is that there is no conflict between science and spirituality. Those are two wings of humanity provided by God for us to understand the world and to relate constructively to each other. So holding together science and spirituality as different modes of truth for people in the world. The second thing that followed from this emphasis on education as Hizmet, which means service, around the world as it grew, was the focus on generating wealth. Himmet for Hizmet, that is, fundraising for Hizmet, for service, so that Turkish business leaders and academics and journalists and others started forming these organizations focused on generating wealth, and extraordinary resources eventually came to be associated with the Hizmet community. All of it voluntarily engaged, no central organizing structure, but lots of communities around Turkey and around the globe who were committed to this work, to Hizmet, and who were able to then mobilize considerable resources on behalf of solving the problems of ignorance and poverty. One of the best examples of this would be the media enterprises associated with the Hizmet movement, Samanyolu TV and Zaman newspaper, which grew from over the course of 20 years from a tiny startup newspaper, Zaman meaning time in English, to becoming a newspaper with a circulation of over 1 million, the largest single circulating newspaper in Turkey. And that's just an example of the kind of initiative that emerged and that grew to be a dynamic vehicle for excellent, objective, sort of center-right journalism. Think, kind of like the Wall Street Journal in the United States, if you want an analogy, and with that kind of circulation as well. And of course, has been completely shut down now by the current regime. And the third emphasis then within Hizmet is on dialogue, on big dialogue events, on academic conferences, bringing diverse people together for this hoshguru, to learn how to live together, to put into practice what the late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs called the dignity of difference, how we can live with each other through the dignity of difference. And people of Hizmet were on the front lines of interreligious dialogue in Turkey, doing things that had been taboo, even connecting with the Christian and the Muslim community, with the Jewish community in Turkey. I mean, really way out in front of where the general Turkish society was, and certainly where the current president was and is at the time. So those three initiatives, focusing on education, on dialogue and social enterprise, were and are the heart of Hizmet at its height, with a center in Turkey and then satellites, throughout the globe. 135 different countries, I think, at one.
Yes, in my understanding, I think it's important for people outside the movement to know that these schools were secular in character, though informed by Islamic values. There was no overt religious teaching that happened, and primarily focused on math and science. That all the social services that ended up being provided in hospitals and social service agencies around the world, also, though an expression of hospitality and generosity out of an Islamic framework, again, came with no strings attached. And the emergence of the media might get us into another important point I'd like for you to address. And that is, if I could make a generalization in the world, there are basically two ways in which Islam interacts with the broader society, either overtly politically or from civil society. And the Hizmet movement had, in my understanding, no aspirations to formal political power. That any ways in which it interacted with the broader society, for instance, through the media, was always from a civil society perspective. And yet, somehow, that was a threat to the political structure in Turkey. Could you speak to that as maybe helping others understand how it was that we got to the purge?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dirk. And the political context in Turkey is tricky for U.S. citizens to understand. In that, right, if we imagine, Turkey at present with, three large factions. One, it's far more complex than that, of course, but what has emerged in Turkey would be the secularists. That is, the old line Ataturk secularists for whom religion is the problem. And religion is fine as long as it's private. And as long as it's beholden to the secularist project of building this state, right? And as religion is run through an agency, a bureau. In Turkey, the Presidency of Religious Affairs, sends out the sermon for every Friday, and preachers follow along. And so that's the second group then would be the political Islamists, those who imagine, right, Islam as the glue that holds Turkey together, in opposition to the glue of the civil religion or the civil state of Ataturk, and especially the military as the guardian of that. So you have these kind of two ways in Turkey that have always been struggling and contending with, for most of the history of modern Turkey, or the Republic of Turkey, with the military on the top and Islam, operating privately below, but with political aspirations among some leaders that would then get squashed in a coup. The third faction that has emerged, that Hizmet really represented was a civil Islam. That is, where this conflict between the secularists and the Islamists is bridged through participation in civil society. And that means in economic life and as individuals in political life. Mr. Gulen has been very clear. He has never supported a candidate, never supported a party. And the same is true of the Hizmet community. If you understand Mr. Gulen and Hizmet politically, you misunderstand them, because their aspiration is to be faithful Muslims as individuals, to pray and to learn the practices of nonviolence that are produce this deep peace, as I call it, both for individuals and in communities. It's remarkable. But then also to contribute to civil society as educators, as business leaders, as journalists, as baklava bakers. I mean, the whole range of society that is constructive. And that's really a third way within the history of Turkey that became attractive to individuals, especially who had not been part of the secularist elite to start with, or who weren't part of the political Islamist elite. And so you had this third way emerging that especially threatened or appeared to threaten the patronage and the overt economic benefits that came from being associated with one of these other forms, the secularist or the political Islamist sort of cohorts. And in that sense, Hizmet, people inspired by Mr. Gulen, became a perfect scapegoat to unite these other two groups, the political Islamists and the secularists, in a tense and fragile unity over and against people of Hizmet. And this is a pattern that recurs repeatedly in history, is that people solidify political power and force through the cultural practice of identifying a scapegoat and then taking what could be the rivalry of all against all and turning it into the solidarity of all against one. And it seems to me that is a diagnosis. You're following the theory of René Girard, a scholar of religion and violence, especially, also late scholar, but I think that illuminates a great deal about what has happened within Turkey. So Erdogan has united the secularists and the political Islamists by generating a scapegoat against whom he has vented horrific damage on individuals, on business and economic life in Turkey, on communities and families. It's really been tragic what has occurred since the coup, or the failed coup, or the staged coup.
Yes, it's been my experience, having the privilege of traveling around the world, seeing Hizmet at work on every continent, that these teachers and business people, these people working in social services, but just people as citizens, really operating from civil society and not wanting to take overt political stance. And yet somehow the movement has became a threat to the political structures. And if you could just say a bit now, John Paul, about the current purge and the impact that it's had on people's lives, on institutions in Turkey.
Yeah, it is a tragic situation, Dirk, that the current regime, the Erdogan regime, which is essentially, a sort of kleptocratic model, has put people in prison. So hundreds of political prisoners now in Turkey, has persecuted individuals who are even vaguely associated with Mr. Gulen on the most specious arguments, and taken away their passports and made it impossible for them to gain a livelihood by firing them. Hundreds of thousands of people fired from jobs in the academy and other workforce locations. And they've policed speech. So political prisoners, persecution, and the policing of speech, which of course is, the truest mark of a dictatorial regime, is when that first amendment of the U.S. Constitution, that first liberty to speak freely and to organize various forms of media to communicate the truth, is silenced. And 187 different media outlets closed. I mean, imagine in the United States if the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Boston Globe were gone. And we were left with Fox News, not even Fox News. Because 90% of the current media circulating in Turkey, and the television stations as well, NBC, ABC, CBS, gone. Fox News. That's the policing of speech that has occurred in Turkey that has led to an incredible brain drain in the country. I mean, extraordinary hardship in the lives of individuals who have had to flee, who are in prison unjustly, but with profound long-term consequences for Turkish society. There was a reason Barack Obama made Turkey his first official state visit in 2008. Because of the extraordinary hope at that time for Turkey's participation as a 97% Muslim nation, at least nominally, the participation of Turkey in the European Union, and bridging in this way Europe and the Middle East. It was an extraordinary hope, and the people of Hizmet would have been an extraordinary bridge in this way. And now what has happened is people have had to flee the country if they have the means and resources to do that. And there are some extraordinary stories of both heroism and adventure and tragedy in that situation of refugee status, basically, and then relocation and starting life anew all over the world, in Canada, in Northern Europe, in Australia, in East and West Africa, South Africa, and in the United States to a lesser degree. And we can hope and pray that under a new administration, and greater openness to refugees and people who have to flee a country for political reasons, and will be reopening. Give me your tired, your poor, as Emma Lazarus put it. So the purge has been a tragic development, truly profound consequences for individuals, families, Turkish community, and for the world of peace building. But here's the thing, and my hope. This is not the first time Mr. Gulen has faced persecution. It is not the first time people at Hizmet have run into obstacles. And I trace in the biography how every time there's been an obstacle like this in the past, Mr. Gulen and people of Hizmet emerged stronger from it. Because they don't hit back. They don't react, but just continue with this patient, positive, musbet hareket, positive action, living out the principles of their faith and gaining the secular knowledge, the self-critical awareness of themselves as individuals, as citizens, and as faithful Muslims. And it is my hope that in Belgium, in Great Britain, in the United States, in Canada, in Australia, in Nigeria, South Africa, these peace islands will continue to grow the work of Hizmet and have a profound positive effect on the communities where they have now landed in diaspora. So that's my hope.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of the movement for this important contribution, the first definitive critical autobiography, for this deep understanding that you have about Hizmet. And I believe it will help bridge the gap with those who are just coming to understand what is happening in Turkey, what it means to these really courageous, altruistic people. And so for that contribution, I want to thank you.
It was a pleasure to be with you, and thanks for your contributions as well. Look forward to working with you in the future, inshallah.
This is Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor and best-selling author. I want to commend Enes Kanter and his organization, You Are My Hope, for the tremendous, inspiring work they've done for human rights in Turkey.
Hello, it's Miss Iraq Sarah Edan. I'm here to tell you about Enes Kanter initiative, You Are My Hope. Please sign the petition, just like me, to help millions of people who are oppressed in Turkey, who are without a voice and need our immediate action. It's one simple click that could help save millions of lives.
Enes, thank you for your advocacy. I stand with you in the efforts to make our world more free and more just.
What's up, y'all? It's Amir Abdullah, running back for the Minnesota Vikings. As you guys know, there's a lot of human rights being battled for right now. Obviously here in America, but as well as in Turkey. I support my brother Enes Kanter with this petition that he started to send to the UN to end human rights struggles in Turkey. I support you, brother.
Hey, it's Tulsi Gabbard. My friend Enes Kanter has been an incredible voice and activist for those who are suffering in his home country and around the world, bringing voice to the voiceless. I want to encourage you to stand with and to support Enes Kanter by joining his You Are My Hope campaign.
Hi, this is Reza Aslan. Be aware of what's happening right now in the U.S. Take care of yourself, protect yourself, raise your voice, and make yourself heard. But also understand that we have responsibilities to the other parts of the world as well. Please go to youaremyhope.org and find out how you can help Turkey in its moment of crisis, even as we are facing our own.
Please be in support of my boy Enes Kanter's campaign, You Are My Hope. We all know the comeback is always greater than the setback, and we only rise by lifting others. So please, in your support, please sign the petition below. We got a situation.
You've been listening to more of the concerned persons who have joined Enes Kanter's signature campaign on change.org. Whatever one's view of the attempted coup in Turkey in July of 2016, or the government accusation that some in the Hizmet movement were terrorists behind it, the persecution of those associated with Hizmet has been sweeping and horrific. The daily grind of the systematic crackdown on the lives of everyday people needs to be made visible. This is a much needed act of solidarity with those who are suffering today and an impetus for the moral outrage needed to bring this injustice to an end. Even for those who had not ended up in prison, the loss of employment, the denial of medical care, of the education of their children, the constant fear of arrest, their existence had become a kind of social death. Such was the dilemma faced by Murat Akçabe. He and his wife and 3 children, because of their association with the movement, did not dare to venture from their home Finally, after 2 years of isolation, with no longer any hope for a return to a more normal life, Murat and his wife decided to take their children and flee the country. I want to invite Dr. Ali Yurtsever, president of the Huddled Masses organization, to help bring us Murat's story.
Evet, Murat Akçabay Bey, programımıza hoş geldiniz.
Hoş bulduk, teşekkür ederim. İyi yayınlar.
Şimdi bu 15 Temmuz darbe girişimi maalesef yüz binlerce aile üzerinde çok büyük tesirler bıraktı. Hala mağduriyetler devam ediyor. Hapiste olan insanlar var, aileler parçalanmış. Ve bu mağdurlar içerisinde mağduriyeti en büyük olanlardan bir tanesi sizsiniz. Orada yavrularınızı kaybettiniz, ailenizi kaybettiniz. Bize anlatır mısınız 15 Temmuz'dan önce nasıl bir hayatınız vardı ve 15 Temmuz hayatınızı nasıl değiştirdi?
Eşim Hatice ve ben hizmet kurumlarında öğretmen olarak çalışıyorduk. 15 Temmuz'dan önce Ahmet Esat ve Mesut adında 2 oğlum vardı. 15 Temmuz'dan sonra bir oğlumuz daha dünyaya geldi. Güzel, huzurlu, mutlu bir yaşamımız vardı 15 Temmuz hadisesine kadar. 15 Temmuz'dan sonra çalıştığımız eğitim kurumları kapatıldı. Beraber çalıştığımız iş arkadaşlarımız, idareci arkadaşlar hapse alınmaya başladı, gözaltına alındı. Ailelerinden haber alıyorduk. Arkadaşların ne durumda olduğunu, nasıl sıkıntılar yaşadığını biliyorduk. İşte alıp önce gözaltı, sonra hapse atılma. Gözaltında bazı arkadaşların çeşitli yaşadıkları sıkıntılar, işkenceler vardı. Tabii böyle her gün sağımızdan solumuzdan arkadaşlar alınıyor. Ve içeri alınma gerekçeleri çok komik. Yani dünyanın hiçbir yerinde gerçekte suç olmayacak sebepler içeri alınma ve hapse atılma sebebi oluyor. İşte mesela bankaya para yatırmaktan, hizmet kurumunda burada resmi olarak işte çalıştınız, bulundunuz. Hizmet hareketine gönül verdiniz, faaliyette bulundunuz. Yardımlarına destek oldunuz gibisinden önlerine konulan komik şeylerle hapse atılıyor. Tabii birçok arkadaş gibi bizim de hayatımız değişti. O saatten sonra korku dolu anlar başladı. O güne kadarki hayat bütünüyle silindi. Yeni bir rota çizmeye başladık kendimize. Nasıl bir rota? Tamamen kimsenin bilmediği, kimsenin tanımadığı bir hayat tarzına geçiş oldu. Tabii sağımıza solumuza arkadaşlarla görüşüyorduk. Onların nasıl yaptıklarına bakıyorduk. Kendi evimizde kalmaz olduk. Kendi arabamızı kullanmaz olduk. Telefonumuzu kullanmaz olduk. Çocuklarımızı okula göndermez olduk. Çünkü bunların hepsi sizin polis tarafından yakalanma gerekçeniz ve hiçbir açıklama ya da sadece adet yerini bulsun diye bazı şeyler yerine getirilerek içeri hapse atılma durumu söz konusuydu. Biz de bunun üzerine tamamen kendi kimliğimizin dışında bir hayat yaşamaya başladık. Evimiz kendi evimiz değil, başkasının üzerine. Arabamız aynı şekilde, telefonumuz aynı şekilde. Hastaneden, çocukların eğitim kurumundan bilinen tüm haklardan mahrum kalacak şekilde bir hayat yaşamaya başladık. Bu ne kadar sürdü? Yaklaşık 2 sene. 18 Temmuz 2018 tarihine kadar bu şekilde bir hayat sürdük.
Bundan sonra bu hayat artık çekilmez diye düşünüp yurt dışına çıkmaya karar mı verdiniz?
Tabii yani çocuklarımızın yaşı ilerliyordu. İlk olduğu zaman olay olduğunda büyük oğlumuzu okula yazdırmıştık. Anaokuluna gidecekti. Bir arkadaşımızın okuldan dolayı alındığını öğrenince çocuğu okuldan aldık. O sene çocuğu okula yollamadık. İkinci sene de çocuğu okula yollamadık. İkisi de okul çağında. Çocuklar en temel haklarından mahrum. Düşündük, aldık, verdik nereye kadar böyle. Çalışmıyoruz. Birikmiş biraz öncesinde paramız var. Onu artık tüketmiş olduk. Çocuklarımızın hastane durumu oluyor. Hastaneye götüremiyoruz çocukları. Çünkü bunların hepsi devletin himayesinde olduğu için hastaneye gidiyorsunuz. Bir sigorta girişiyle birlikte hastaneden gelip sizi polisler alabiliyor. Hatta küçük oğlum 15 Temmuz'dan sonra dünyaya gelmişti. Yani o gün yani hiç unutamam. Normalde insanın çocuğunun dünyaya geldiği gün en mutlu günüdür. Biz o gün nasıl hastaneye gideceğiz, nasıl hastaneden çıkacağız, gittiğimizde eşim alınacak mı? Eşim adeta yalvarırcasına bana işte sen hastaneye gelme. Yani alınacaksın da ben alayım. İkimiz birden alınmayalım, çocuklarımız. En azından senin çocukların başında kal. Yani bu duygu düşüncelerle hastaneye gidiyorsunuz. Hastaneye gittik. Doğum oldu, hemen giriş oldu. Sonrasında doğum olduktan sonra çıkmak istiyoruz. Doktorlar izin vermiyor. Ama siz orada çok dikkate almadan doktorları hastaneden kaçıyorsunuz. Neden? Çünkü birazdan gelip polisin sizi alma durumu var. Çoluğunuzun çocuğunuzun arkada kalma durumu var. Bu duygu düşüncelerle hastanedesiniz. Artık 2 sene her gün kapınızın çalınma endişesi. Hastane, eğitim, tüm özgürlüklerden, tüm temel haklardan mahrumsunuz. 2 sene sonunda artık eşimle konuştuk. Bu çocuklar, arkadaşları dahi yok. Bir arkadaş edinemiyorlar. Çünkü dışarı çıkamıyor. Sadece bizler değil, çocuklarımız da bizlerle birlikte bir eve hapis olmuşuz. Çıkamıyoruz. Çocuklarla bizle birlikte özgür olamıyordu. Hani bu çocukların artık bir eğitimi olsun, dışarı çıkalım, kendi özgürlüğümüz olsun, bir hayat kuralım. Bu çocukların bir arkadaşı olsun düşüncesiyle eşimle birlikte çıkma kararı aldık.
Bütün bunlara sebep olan şey sadece o okulda öğretmen olmanız mı?
Okulda öğretmen olmak bunlardan bir gerekçe. Ondan sonra bankada hesabımız vardı. Bankasaya para yatırılması, belli zamanlarda bankadaki hesap hareketliliğinin artması, hizmet hareketine gönül vermiş insanlarla birlikte bir araya gelmeniz, adına sohbet dediğiniz ortamlara katılmanız, onların eğitim kurumlarına gönüllülük hareketlerinde bulunmanız, yardımda bulunmanız. Yani dediğim gibi şu anda dünyanın hiçbir yerinde, hiçbir hukuk devletinde suç sayılmayacak sebeplerden dolayı içeri alındı insanlar. Bizden önce de aynı sıra arkadaşlarımız, masa arkadaşlarımızın alındığını görünce biz de tedbirimizi alıp saklanmaya başladık.
Sonra bu çıkış meselesi nasıl oldu? Çıkmaya karar verdiniz. Bunu anlatabiliyor musunuz?
Bizden önce çıkan arkadaşlarımız vardı tabii. Amerika'ya, Avrupa'ya gitmişlerdi. Onlarla irtibat halindeydik. Yani nasıl bir çıkış yaşadılar, çıktıktan sonraki durumları, bu zaman geçti. Hani biz bugün biter, yarın biter düşüncesiyle belki biraz acele etmedik ama ilerleyen zamanda bu tüm haklardan mahrum kalarak ve nereye kadar kaçacağını bilmeden her an bir yerde yakalanacaksın, derdest edileceksin, içeri atılacaksın. Arkadaşlarla konuşunca Avrupa'ya geçen, Amerika'ya geçen arkadaşlar kendilerine yeni bir hayat kurmuşlar. Yani hastanesinden okuluna, özgürlüğüne, istediği gibi hayatını rahat bir şekilde, özgür bir şekilde yaşayabiliyor ve çıkmaya karar verdik. Yine bizden önce çıkan arkadaşlar vesilesiyle bazı irtibatlar kurduk ve çıkmaya karar verdik. Yani dediler şu gün çıkacağız. O güne göre hazırlığımızı yaptık. Yani olaydan tam 2 yıl sonra, yaklaşık 2 yıl sonra yola çıktık. 18 Temmuz sabahı evden ayrıldık. Akşam Edirne sınırından, Türkiye'nin Edirne sınırından Meriç Nehri'nden Yunanistan'a geçmek için nehre yaklaştık. Yaklaşık 100 metre ileride Yunanistan sınırı var. Artık o tarafa geçince özgürüz. Oraya kadar gelince gerisinin artık bittiğini düşündük. Hatta eşimin kulağına eğildim, bota bindirdiler bizi kaçakçılar. Bot hareket ettikten sonra inşallah bundan sonra sıkıntılar bitti dedim. İnşallah dedi o da. Karşıya geçtik. Tam karşıda artık bitti. Ama böyle yüksek bir yer, oralardan çıkamadık. Kaçakçılar oradan tekrar nehrin ortasına doğru botu ittiler. Farklı bir yerden geçeceğiz diye. Sonra bot çalılıklara takıldı. Ters döndü. Sonra alabora oldu. Botun batacağını anladık, su almaya başlamıştı çünkü. Ben 2 çocuğumu yakaladım. Bir anda bot alabora oldu. Yaklaşık 200 metre kadar çocuklarımla birlikte sürüklendik. Eşim benden önde gidiyordu, görüyordum. Zaten yüzmeyi bilmiyor. Ben biraz yüzmeyi biliyorum. Çocuklar elimde. Her elimde bir çocuk var. Bir yere kadar mücadele edebildik. Sonra çocuklar elimden gitti. Ben de bir ağacın dalına tutundum. Hatice aşağılarda bir yerde bir ağaçtan tutulmuş. Hatice'nin sesi geliyordu, yardım edin diye. Eşime bekle geleceğim diye söyledim. Ama çok değil, belki 10-15 saniye sonra, çok kısa bir zaman sonra Hatice'nin de sesi kesildi. Yaklaşık yarım saat orada bekledik. Çocuklar ve eşim gitmişti. Sonra Yunan tarafına geçtim. Büyük oğlum bulunamadı. Eşim ve diğer iki oğlum bulundular. 5-6 gün sonra Türkiye tarafına defnedildiler. Tabii ben bir daha görememiş oldum. O son görüşmemizdi. Cenazelerine katılamadım. Büyük oğlum halen bulunamadı. 2 ay, yaklaşık 2 ay nehirde kaldık. Arama çalışmalarında takip etmeye çalıştık yetkili kurumları. Oradaki balıkçılarla her gün gittik, görüştük. Oğlumu gördünüz mü diye. Zaman zaman yine Yunanistan'a gidip orada hem adli tıpta hem de balıkçılarla görüşüyorum. Oğlumun fotoğraflarını onlara vermiştim. Büyük oğlumu halen bulmayı arzu ediyoruz.
Evet, bu çok acı, kusura bakmayın yani bunu tekrar size yaşattığımız için ama maalesef dünyaya bu zulmün duyurulması için bunların anlatılması lazım. Sadece bir öğretmen olduğunuz için, sadece devletin izin verdiği bir kurumda çalıştığınız için, sohbetlere katıldığınız için, devletin izin verdiği bir kurumdaki bankaya para yatırdığınız için bütün bunlar başınıza geldi. Ve sadece siz yalnız değilsiniz bu konuda. Binlerce insan, on binlerce insan bu mağduriyetleri yaşıyor. Dolayısıyla bunun duyurulması lazım, bunun anlatılması lazım ta ki insanlar bu zalimleri, bu işte gadreden insanları tanısınlar, bilsinler ve belki bu zulüm bu şekilde biraz daha durabilir veya daha erken durabilir diye ümit ediyoruz. Sonra şimdiki hayatınız nedir? Nasıl, ne yapıyorsunuz şu anda? Neredesiniz?
Avrupa'ya geçtim sonra. Şu anda hayata tutunmaya çalışıyoruz. Bir dil kursuna gidiyorum. Dil eğitimini tamamladıktan sonra bu ülkede yeniden öğretmen olarak mesleğime devam etmek istiyorum. Biz, eşim de öyleydi, arkadaşlarımız, tanıdığımız arkadaşlar da öyleydi. Bulunduğumuz yerde insanlara hep yardımcı olmaya çalışan, faydası olmaya çalışan insanlarız. Bu ülkede de yine öğretmenlik yapıp gençlere, insanlığa elimden geldiğince, gücüm yettiğince yardımcı olmaya çalışacağım. Biz sadece kendimiz değil, çocuklarımızı yetiştirirken vatan, millet sevgisi, insan hakları, değerler, çevre temizliği, bunların hepsini çocuklarımıza öğrettik. Ama böyle bir kader birçok arkadaşımızın başına geldiği gibi bizim de başımıza geldi. Yanlış bir şey yapmadık. Vatanı, milleti sevdik. Bundan sonra da yine seveceğiz. Bulunduğumuz yerde insanlığa elimizden geldiğince yardımcı olacağız. Evet, ağır. Gerçekten ağır. Benim eşime ve çocuklarıma sebep oldular. Hukuk dairesi içerisinde yaşadığım müddetçe bunun hesabını sormak için elimden geleni yapacağım. Bu günlerin böyle gitmeyeceğine eminim. Bu günlerin değişeceğine eminim. Bunlara sebep olanlar bunun hesabını verecekler. Sonuna kadar elimizden geleni yapacağız. Hukuk çerçevesinde. Ama hiç kimsenin, hatta bize bu zulmü yapanların, buna sebep olanların dahi çoluğunun çocuğunun başına böyle bir şey gelmesini istemeyiz. Yalnız yaşadığımız müddetçe mücadelemiz devam edecek.
Murat Beyciğim, bu kadar mağduriyetten sonra, bu yaşadıklarınızdan sonra hayata nasıl tutunuyorsunuz? Yeniden yeni bir hayata nasıl başlıyorsunuz? Bundaki motivasyonunuz nedir? Biraz bunu anlatabilir misiniz? Yani sizin gibi çok mağdur insanlar var. Belki onlara da bir yol gösterme adına güzel bir ümit olabilir.
Estağfurullah. İnancımız, yani biz bir inanç uğruna yola çıktık. Sadece Türkiye'de değil, dünyanın dört bir tarafına gidip insanlarla bir olma, insanlara güzeli, iyiliği hem gösterme hem anlatma. Yolda sıkıntılar yaşayacağımızı en baştan biliyorduk. Yolun kaderi olarak bunu gördük. Bundan sonra da başımıza geleceğini, yine gelebileceğini biliyoruz ama bizim meselelere bakışımızda en ufak bir değişiklik yok. Bize bunu takdir eden Allah, kaderi yazan Allah. Biz inancımız gereği Allah'ın bunların hepsini planladığına inanıyoruz. Evet, normalde normal şartlarda farklı yerlerden, farklı ülkelerden insanlarla bir araya geldik, buluştuk. İnsanlar şu arkadaşlarımızın yaşadığı sıkıntıların çok az bir kısmını yaşasa bile belki dünyadan el çekmek istiyorlar. Ama bizim arkadaşlar bir mücadele, bir azimle devam ediyorlar. Bunun en büyük kaynağı, sebebi inancımız. Son nefese kadar da inşallah böyle gidecek diye düşünüyoruz.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum Murat Bey. Ümit ediyorum inşallah yavrularınız, eşiniz şu anda cennettedir ve siz de onlarla cennette buluşacaksınız. Dinimiz, inancımız bize bunu söylüyor. İnşallah belki bu hafif bir teselli olabilir. Dediğiniz gibi şu anda en önemli şey Türkiye'de diğer mağdur ve mazlumların en azından kurtuluşu için mücadele etmek, gayret etmek. Ve dediğiniz şey çok önemli. Size bu zulmü yapanların bile yavrularının böyle bir mağduriyete düşmesini istememeniz çok büyük bir âlicenaplık. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Size yeniden bunları hatırlattığımız için özür diliyoruz ama ümit ederiz Türkiye'de bu zulümler bir an evvel biter ve yüz binlerce mağdur insan ve onların aileleriyle beraber milyonlarca mağdur insanın mağduriyetleri biter. Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Ben teşekkür ederim böyle bir fırsatı verdiğiniz için. Normalde insan çıkıp o günleri yeniden hatırlamak istemiyor ama bunlar bu mücadelenin bir parçası olarak değerlendirdiğim için. Çünkü bugün halen binlerce insan Türkiye'de içeride, hapishanelerde ve bu insanların gerçekte dünyanın hiçbir tarafında suç sayılmayacak gerekçelerle içeride olduğunu biliyoruz. Her gün halen içeri alınan insanlar, arkadaşlar duyuyoruz. Geride kalan çoluk çocuklar var. Hatta bazı çocuklar 3 yaşında, 5 yaşında çocukların anneleriyle birlikte hapiste olduğunu biliyoruz. Mücadelemiz devam edecek. Yanlış bir şey yapmadık. Biz bunu biliyoruz. Hem inandığımız gönül dostlarımız için bunu, yani bir pişmanlığımız yok. Kaderimizden razıyız. Kadere bize takdir edenden razıyız. En ufak bir pişmanlığımız yok. Bugüne kadar hangi sahiplerle bu mücadeleyi verdiysek bundan sonra aynı şekilde devam edeceğiz. Ama hem kendi arkadaşlarımız hem de dışarıdan bizi dinleyen gönül dostlarımız şunu bilmeliler. Halen Türkiye'de zulüm devam ediyor. Elimizden geldiğince mücadeleyi vermemiz lazım. Zor olsa da, acı olsa da bu mücadeleyi vermemiz lazım. Bugüne kadar neler gelmiş geçmiş, bu devran elbet dönecek. Bize bunu yapanlar, buna sebep olanlar hesabını verecek. Zerre miktar bundan şüphemiz yok. Tekrar teşekkür ediyorum bu imkanı verdiğiniz için.
Teşekkür ederiz. Sağ olun. İyi günler.
İyi çalışmalar.
I know that was a very difficult story to hear. Our hearts go out to Murat. He is representative of thousands of people in the Hizmet movement, representative of the character of the lives that they were leading, of the dilemmas that they face, and the character of the way in which they're trying to deal with this terrible aftermath. To bring perspective to the current situation of the Hizmet movement, both in Turkey and for those now like Murat living in the diaspora, we turn to two well-informed and insightful friends of the movement. Sofia Pandya is a professor and department chair at California State University at Long Beach in the Department of Religious Studies. She is the winner of the 2016 Advancement of Women Award from the President's Commission on the Status of Women. A Fulbright scholar, she specializes in women in Islam and more broadly in contemporary movements within Islam, having carried out research in Turkey on several occasions. She's currently working on a book on the stories of Turkish refugees and the meaning they find or construct from their ordeal. For more than 40 years, Aaron Cohen has been a keen observer and student of Turkish culture and society. Prior to his recent retirement, he was a senior advisor to the Jewish United Fund, Jewish Federation of Metropolitan Chicago. As JUF's vice president of communications, Aaron was deeply involved in Muslim-Jewish relations and was a link between the Jewish community and the Hizmet community in Chicago. Sophia and Aaron, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Sophia, let's begin with you. You perhaps better than anybody knows that the story of Murat is just one of thousands. And in your research and writing, you have come upon so many more.
That's true, Dirk, and I want to thank you for your kind introduction and also thank Mr. Ali Yurtsever and Huddled Masses for having me on. During the summers of 2018 and 2019, I went to Greece and interviewed dozens of refugees and asylum seekers and heard their stories. And their stories, like Murat's, are exceedingly painful. Sometimes I had to take, Advil just to get through the interview. I interviewed torture victims. I interviewed people that had been pushed back and beaten in the woods by some Greek corrupt officials. I interviewed, people who had been trying to leave Greece and had to, buy a ticket to leave and, go to the airport and try to leave, on up to 20 different times, and each time not allowed to leave because they were using a fake passport, not allowed to start their new lives. So Murat's story is one of many stories that I've heard, and all of these stories are extremely painful to hear, and they reflect the injustice that is happening right now in Turkey. Turkey is known for harboring refugees from Syria, and in fact, there's about 4 million refugees there. And what people don't really realize is that, in fact, the Turkish government is creating refugees. So after the July 15, 2016 attempted coup in Turkey, President Erdogan lost no time in blaming the Hizmet movement and also others that he perceived as opposition. And after, for the purge and for anything that he considered had gone wrong in Turkey, and began to create refugees by throwing people in jail, clamping down on the media, basically causing social ostracism in Turkey, professional and professional death for many people by not creating circumstances for which they would no longer be able to find positions, taking away their businesses, shutting down their bank accounts, and so then you have tens of thousands of people leaving Turkey, including Kurds, leftists, but mainly people in the Hizmet movement.
Aaron, the Hizmet movement has been characterized as a terrorist movement, that somehow people like Murat and his wife have been labeled as terrorists. How do you square that with the people you've known in the movement?
Thank you very much, Dirk and Ali, for doing this work. In Judaism, we have the concept of tikkun olam, the repair of the world. In the phrase, you're not required to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. In my experience, there are no people I know who embody that concept of repairing the world more so than the adherents of Hizmet, who I know. They are exemplars of values in action. So that when you look at the context of the alleged coup, which perhaps was a pretext for this purge, it's essential to understand that the people who were swept up in the blowback had been widely regarded within Turkey as the nation's best and brightest in so many fields of endeavor, which we've touched on: engineering, journalism, medicine, law, business, academia. The analogy I've used for friends as to what happened was as though someone had cut off their own right hand. I think so, perverted and perverse in a sense was Erdogan's jealousy and fear of the aspirations and values for creating such a civil society as they were creating. And I think it's easy to determine by anyone interested and who does even a little bit of research that justice was not served following this coup. In fact, as Murat's terribly painful story makes clear, here are people whose only quote unquote crime was to be inspired by a vision of Turkey and of humanity. And that vision should be seen in its true light. And that is people motivated to be the change you want to see. So my experience of people associated or who follow the teachings of Mr. Gulen, they are loving, generous, philanthropic, open-minded people of faith who are principally inspired to do good in the world. It doesn't mean that I see eye to eye with them on all matters of politics or religion, that I respect and admire them for their love of God, love of humanity, love of their homeland, and for the inspiring example that they set.
Sophia, these folks now who have this certain kind of character face this terrible dilemma after the coup. Can you share with us some of the current strategies that the Turkish government is using to continue this purge 4 years after the attempted coup?
Well, one way that the Turkish government is really neutralizing the movement in Turkey is by targeting women. And so there's a lot of human rights reports that state that women are being arrested right before or right after they give birth. And this is when they are at their most vulnerable. And because Turkey is a relatively patriarchal country, this is a way to hurt the whole community. If you take somebody's wife and put them in jail right before, they give birth, right after they give birth, you are less likely to agitate for any change or do anything political. I mean, it's just going to silence you. It's just going to neutralize you because your wife is giving birth and sometimes in jail. So this is one strategy. There are many such strategies. Another method is that the Turkish government has a very long arm and has begun to kidnap people outside of Turkey, even though this is extrajudicial, this is not legal. But I have friends in the United States that are afraid of being shoved into, the trunk of a car and being driven across the border to Mexico. Who would know? They would just disappear. In fact, I have friends who have told me that they have received such threats that they would just disappear. The Turkish government has also made it very difficult for people to, to cross the river into Greece. There are some reports that say that certain Turkish certain ethnically Turks that live in Greece, ethnic Turks that live in Greece are part of the pushback scandal. And the pushback is when you have corrupt, Greek officials that might be of Turkish descent going to the rivers and pushing people back across the bridge. In Greece, in fact, there's a concept of, great hospitality to foreigners, and it's called philoxenia, or love for strangers. And philoxenia is this embrace of strangers, and in general, most Greeks have been very welcoming of refugees, and especially of Hizmet refugees. But you have these a group of Greeks that are influenced by the Turkish government, that have infiltrated the officials that push back people, and this is a terrible phenomenon.
Aaron, building on that, it may seem to those living outside of Turkey that this kind of fate at the hands of authoritarianism, is a matter over there. But you've spoken to me very poignantly that none of us are that far away from, or we can imagine ourselves in the shoes of people in Hizmet. Can you speak to that a little more?
Sure. Sadly, it's kind of a cautionary tale of what can happen in any country. One of the great tragedies, I think, of the Erdogan era in Turkey is that in his quest for absolute power, he knocked down the building blocks of a flourishing civil society. And we can project what that looks like, as Dr. Paul had mentioned earlier. He's transformed Turkey from a nation aspiring to be one ruled by law to one that is ruled by the whims of a strong man. And we see this pattern repeated in so many places. As Americans, we can look with worry, I think, at similar forces that could potentially be unleashed here. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, throughout history, has any nation that has succumbed to the authoritarian impulse, if you will, emerged stronger, more prosperous, more just, or more free? And I think the answer is obvious. It has not. And this is what is so sad for anyone who loves Turkey and for one who is proud of whatever country they live in. This distorted notion that authoritarianism provides an answer to vexing problems is sadly misguided, when in fact the opposite is true. The kind of people banding together to do good in their own communities, to engage in dialogue, respectful dialogue with those different from yourselves. And again, I refer back to Dr. Paul and what he had described as the values and actions of the Hizmet movement. These are the aspirational deeds that anybody wishing to live in an open, just, free society should ascribe to, I think.
Sophia, in your research, you are documenting the lasting impact of displacement for these folks in the Hizmet movement. Could you speak to a little more about what are they facing in terms of internal displacement or displacement in the diaspora?
Refugees never choose this identity. They they are individuals with multifaceted identities and never wanted to be a refugee. Nobody does, by definition. And yet the status doesn't go away just when you arrive to the home country or to the host country. You continue, hoping to find a voice, hoping to find a way to belong, to get a job, to learn the language. And even sometimes decades after you are still dealing with the stigma of not fully belonging. The refugees that I interviewed spoke to me of trauma, and I had to look up collective trauma in depth to try to understand what was happening to this community. And I found that people that suffer from this type of trauma, they endure lasting mental health crises, depression, feelings of alienation, rising suicide rates, rising divorce rates. And what to me is the very most disturbing thing of all is the inability to parent their children. You know, always checking the internet, always checking Twitter to see what's happening, always thinking about tragedy. In the first couple years after the attempted coup and the launch of the purge, families in the movement, whether they were refugees or not, stopped holding birthday parties, stopped holding events for their children, stopped, having fun, because the idea was we need to worry about, the grandma. We need to worry about our uncle who's going to cross the river soon. We need to worry about your aunt who's in jail. And so their children had to carry a lot of this trauma. And so children that are traumatized also have lasting effects, nightmares, inability to be, successful in school. And so there's intergenerational trauma. Without mental health treatment, the danger is that even the children of this movement will be affected, even in their ability to parent later. So this is quite a crisis. It really is. And yet the spirituality that John Paul spoke about is of great, tremendous help. This idea that you can create a collective yearning for a better tomorrow, and this belief that God will help you, help you later. That your huzn, your pain, your spiritual sorrow can be transformed through service into hoşgörü, empathetic pluralism, and that you will then be able to help serve your new community is extremely powerful. You heard Murat say that he hopes to be of help, and he hopes to carry out service in his new country. That's extremely powerful. He lost his entire family.
Yes, I have watched here in the U.S., both amongst people who did not, in the Hizmet movement, who did not immediately suffer from the purge, and then those who have come to the United States since. I've heard them wrestle with this dealing of their trauma, and yet not wanting to pass it on, and seeking both their collective solidarity with each other, but more importantly, to return to the mission that they had originally been called to as the source of healing. Oh, very extraordinary. And Murat epitomizes that. Aaron, let me ask you finally, those of us who are learning about this for the first time, or have been friends of the movement for quite a while, we see the situation in Turkey. It's not unlike many situations around the world, and there is something called compassion fatigue. How do we deal with the relentless onslaught of this kind of suffering and tragedy, and how do we make sense of this in terms of our response to people in the Hizmet movement?
Yeah, I face that question every time I look in the mirror, Dirk, in a sense. I'm the grandchild of victims of genocide during the Holocaust. I grew up with survivors and refugees. And after spending a career fighting anti-Semitism, working for the cause of philanthropy, I came to feel that it's a relentless and seemingly unending assault on humanity. And what do you do in the face of it? You can develop a kind of nihilistic despair, I think. But this is where I draw inspiration, and I echo, what has been said, inspiration and hope from the people of Hizmet, their faith, their tireless work, even in the face of this persecution, serve as a beacon, I think, in what otherwise is an incredibly bleak landscape when it comes to human rights around the world and also here at home.
And if within the movement, these people can find strength to move on, to continue the path, then those of us supporting them don't dare to despair. But we need to be inspired by their example. And sure, part of that can be devoted to our care for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a biblical injunction. In Hebrew, it's al ta'amod al dam re'echa, do not stand idly by. And it's an easy phrase. It's a little harder to put it into practice, but when I've spoken to Dr. Yurtsever about this sort of thing, it's without that, we lose hope. And if you lose hope, you lose everything.
Well, as we bring our program to a close today, I want to thank John Paul, Sophia Pandya, and Aaron Cohen. Of course, our hearts go out to Marat on his loss and to all those who have and are suffering today. But on this last note that Aaron pointed to of hope to our audience, I want to say there are things you can do. You can stay informed about the situation by visiting silenceturkey.org. You can make a financial contribution in support of those in the Hizmet movement and others like them by visiting Huddled Masses at huddlem.org. And I want to encourage you to seek out the local associations and organizations associated with the Hizmet movement and extend your care and support to those displaced people who make up the Hizmet diaspora. Seemingly simple things like assisting someone in the filling out of forms, providing for their basic material needs, helping them learn English, tutoring with children are invaluable. And perhaps most importantly, simply listening to the story of the displaced, to listening to the story of traumatized persons can be healing and empowering. And finally, today, I want to encourage you all, again, to go to You Are My Hope, the campaign of Enes Kanter on change.org, and add your signature to those calling for an end to this injustice. Thank you for joining us.
Everybody, this is comedian Maz Jobrani, just sending my love and support to Enes Kanter, as well as You Are My Hope. Please check it out, support them, sign the petition, and let them know we're here with you, Enes. We're here with you. All right, my brother, you are my hope.
Hey, this is Donnie Wahlberg, and I'd like to offer my support and also ask you for your support for my friend, my brother, an amazing human being, and a wonderful human rights activist, Enes Kanter, and his campaign, You Are My Hope.
Hey guys, it's your girl Farrah Abraham, and I wanted to say thank you guys so much for sending You Are Hope petition for Enes Kanter.
This is Congressman Pete King, United States Congressman from the state of New York, and I am proud to stand in solidarity with Enes Kanter and all the people of Turkey who stand together against the brutal dictatorship of Erdogan. I stand with Enes. You are my hope. We have to hope for the best and do all we can to bring about freedom and democracy for all the people of Turkey. Thank you very much.
So peace, Enes Kanter, my brother. All right, keep your fight, because I know you fight with love. I'm out. You Are My Hope campaign, Enes Kanter. Peace. Chuck D, Public Enemy.
Hey everyone, it is me, WWE superstar Dana Brooke, and I am here supporting my amazing friend. Make sure you go and support too. It is You're My Hope.
Hey, this is Robert J. O'Neill, former operator with SEAL Team 6. I wanted to take a second to let you know that I'm supporting my friend Enes Kanter and the You Are My Hope initiative. I'm asking you to sign a petition so that we can raise awareness for thousands of people who are victims of human rights violations every day and don't have a voice.
this is Aria Rich, and I fully support Inez Cantor's campaign, You Are My Hope. Please join me in signing the petition. Let's all be the voice of the voiceless and help those in need.
I encourage everyone there to go and sign the petition to join You Are My Hope. Get on board with the great man Enes Kanter. He's not just a champion of the court, not just a champion of basketball, but he's a champion of life. Well done.